Smoothlink's QuickBooks Online integration provides a live sync of all your Procore projects, companies, prime contract invoices, commitments, purchase order or subcontract invoices, direct costs, and timesheets. Our feature map describes how these features map between Procore and QuickBooks Online, showing how it'll be mapped initially during the setup process and how the live sync will function. Your onboarding team will customize this for your business's particular processes and needs during your setup meeting. Note that this feature map is for the US terminology. Different countries will use different terms and will have their own feature map. Procore projects will be mapped to a sub-customer in QuickBooks Online. Note that these sub-customers can be changed into QuickBooks projects once they've been synced across. Here we can see what happens when we create a new project in Procore. This customer field will be set up during the onboarding meeting. The project will sync as a sub-customer of this selection. We can see that the project is now synced across to QuickBooks Online. Now, looking at our customers, we can see the project is synced across as a sub-customer of the selection we made in the custom field on the project in Procore. We can also see the tool here to convert our sub-customers into QuickBooks projects if we wish to. We also have an option to select a default customer if all your projects are for a single customer, if you don't do work for multiple different clients. We also have optional features to sync across projects as locations in QuickBooks Online, or to use Procore departments which map to QuickBooks departments. Procore cost codes can be mapped to QuickBooks Online in two main ways. The first is to map the cost codes directly to an account in the chart of accounts. The second is to use item codes in the products and services section of QuickBooks Online. We'll go over the option for mapping to the chart of accounts first. This can be done by using a CSV file, which we'll use during the setup meeting to map your cost codes to the QuickBooks chart of accounts. The Procore cost codes will be exported as a CSV file, like so. Here, we can see our Procore cost codes in the CSV file. Note that these header level or level 1 cost codes are not chargeable, so when syncing a bill from QuickBooks Online back to Procore, it should not be mapped to these cost codes. Now, we can export our chart of accounts as a spreadsheet from QuickBooks Online. To do this, we'll go to our chart of accounts, run a report, and then export to Excel. Note that account numbers are an optional feature in QuickBooks Online, so if they're enabled, you would use those to map to the cost codes. Otherwise, you would use the account name in this column. Now we'll start making the mapping spreadsheet. The left column will be the Procore cost code, and the right column will be the account to map to from QuickBooks. Firstly, we'll remove the header level cost code mapping, as we don't want to sync back to this cost code. Now I've just entered some accounts here on the right column as an example. This is then how a live sync will occur when a cost code is selected in Procore. You can see here our Procore cost codes and QuickBooks accounts in the integration. We'll import the spreadsheet. We can see that it's now mapped in the integration. Your account mapping can also be set up on the project level rather than the global level as we've demonstrated here. We'll go into project settings in the integration and set up the project level mapping. This will override the global mapping for this project. The other main option for mapping your cost codes is to use item codes in QuickBooks Online. To check if you're using item codes in QuickBooks, we can create a new bill. If we see this item details section on the bill for the line items, that means you're using item codes. These can then be used to map to QuickBooks Online instead of using the account code mapping that we went over earlier. In the setup meeting, we can sync in your Procore cost codes and push these as item code entries to QuickBooks Online. Now we can see that our cost codes have synced across to QuickBooks Online as item codes in the products and services section. From here, each item code can be associated with an account in QuickBooks. Tax options can also be set per item code. Procore cost types can be mapped to classes in QuickBooks Online. We can see our cost types here, and then in QuickBooks, this is the classes section. Classes can be used in QuickBooks for reporting purposes when sent across from Procore. We will map a cost type here, and now we can see it here as a class entry in QuickBooks. Tax codes in Procore will be mapped to tax rates in QuickBooks. We can see our tax codes here in Procore, and then our tax rates here in QuickBooks. We can see here how they map in the integration. Procore companies will map to QuickBooks as customers or vendors. Note that QuickBooks distinguishes between customers, who are on the sales side, and vendors, who are for purchasing from. We will differentiate this by adding a tag to the company in Procore. Here we'll show how to sync a customer to Procore when created in QuickBooks. We'll create a new customer, you can see here that it's synced across to Procore. In the tags and keywords field, we can see that it says customer, which means that the integration will recognize it as a customer when syncing to QuickBooks. Now, we'll create a vendor in Procore and have it sync across to QuickBooks Online. We can see that it's synced across to QuickBooks, and the integration has also updated the company with the vendor tag. Employees in Procore will be mapped to QuickBooks employees. The Procore earning types can also be brought into the integration for creating payroll direct costs based on the timesheet entries. We can see these time types from Procore. Here, we'll set how the payroll direct costs would be created. We'll set the hourly rates for regular time. Then after 7.6 hours, we'll say it goes to overtime at 1.5 times pay. And after 2 hours of overtime, it will go to double time. And we'll set these rates. Note that this is for creating direct costs in Procore based on the timesheets. We can also set up allowances. We'll create a new time type, let's say a meal allowance. We'll sync in the new time type. And now we'll select it as an allowance. And say that after 4 hours of regular time, they'll get this allowance. Note that this is the manual setup for the earning rates. This can also be done using a spreadsheet to set up the earning rates configuration for all your employees at once. Now, we'll look at how the syncing between Procore and QuickBooks works when the integration is live. Time contract invoices will sync across to QuickBooks Online as a sales invoice. This will also bring across your attachments with the sales invoice. We'll create a new time contract invoice here. You can see that it syncs across to QuickBooks through the integration. And here it is in QuickBooks as a sales invoice, with all of the line items here. We also have an option to roll up the line items into a lump sum if you wish. When we receive a payment for the sales invoice, it will sync the payment back to Procore. We can see the payment sync here. And in Procore in the prime contract, it will show in the payments received section. For commitments, the integration has two main workflows. We can sync across the full purchase order to QuickBooks, which can then be used to create new invoices or requisitions on the commitment in Procore. Or we can sync across the invoices when they're created in Procore as a bill to QuickBooks. The workflow can be decided during the setup meeting. We'll go over the optional purchase order method first. We'll create a new purchase order in Procore. Now we can see that the purchase order is synced across to QuickBooks. We can then use this purchase order to create a new bill that will be linked to the purchase order that is synced across. We'll pay the full amount of the first line and part of the second. We can see that this is synced across from QuickBooks, and it's created a new invoice in Procore for the commitment, with the work progress calculated from the bill that's synced across. The other option for syncing commitments between Procore and QuickBooks Online is to create the purchase orders in Procore, and then new invoices on the commitment will sync across as a bill in QuickBooks. This will also bring across your attachments when syncing. This purchase order will create a new invoice. When it's approved, it will sync across to QuickBooks. Here, we can see that it's successfully synced. The new bill with the completion percentage here in the quantity column. When we pay the bill in QuickBooks, the payment will sync back to the payments issued section on the commitment. Direct costs can sync both ways between Procore and QuickBooks. When we create a new direct cost in Procore, it will sync across to QuickBooks as a bill. Also, when we create a new bill in QuickBooks that has a project selected, it will sync back to Procore as a direct cost. Attachments will also sync between both systems. Firstly, we'll create a new direct cost in Procore. We can see that it's synced across to QuickBooks Online. When the bill is paid in QuickBooks, we'll sync across the payment and update the paid date field on the direct cost. There's also the option to create the direct cost in QuickBooks. As we can see here on the feature map, the arrow here goes both ways. We'll create a new bill here in QuickBooks, select the item code, which is the cost code it will appear under in Procore. Select the project, now we can see it synced across to Procore as a direct cost. When the bill is paid in QuickBooks, it will update the paid date section. Timesheets can sync across to QuickBooks Online as time activity. It can also be used to create a payroll direct cost if you wish. Although we're using timesheets here, this can also be done with standard time cards. Here, we'll show the timesheet entry syncing across to QuickBooks. We'll make a new daily timesheet. Approve it. We can see that it's synced across to QuickBooks. The hours here are organized according to how QuickBooks is set for the employee rates, rather than from Procore. We can also see it's created a payroll direct cost according to the rates we set up earlier. We also have the option of a scheduled sync to push the time activity back from QuickBooks as a payroll direct cost. And that covers our feature map for our Procore and QuickBooks Online integration. To get started with our integration, go to our Procore Marketplace page for the QuickBooks connector by Smoothlink. Scroll down and see our client intake link to get started. Click here to input your details. Then we'll send you an invoice. Once this is paid, our team will reach out to you to arrange your setup and book in an onboarding meeting, which will take around 30 minutes. Once this is completed, your Procore and QuickBooks Online integration will be up and running in a live sync as was shown in this video. Reach out to us if you have any further questions.